about myself for an hour is like exhausting. So if it's a two-way thing, it's more comfortable. If not, I'm fine. You lead, I'll follow.
You'll be okay. Most people, when they're done with this, say that was really fun. It went by really quick.
Yeah.
It wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
Just a normal conversation, just like we were talking the other day.
For sure.
I mean,
so we have a logo for your business.
oh yeah, roll through that.
I saw it up there.
Yeah, so when do you want us to kind of like put that in?
Probably. Hey, and welcome back to the Local 636 podcast. I'm here with Chris Honstain of Rec Hall. Today we're going to talk about his story. We're going to talk about Rec Hall. It's an awesome venue in St. Charles. If you haven't been there, you need to check it out, and we'll talk a lot about that today. We're also going to talk about our Make a Scene event that we've got coming up on Friday the 13th in October. All that and more coming your way on the Local 636 podcast. Welcome.
Thank you.
You had trouble finding the place. Cottleville, it's not in your favorites on your maps.
It's not I'm not a regular here. The downtown looks kind of nice though.
It's awesome. Have you never been out here or anything?
I haven't. I've been. We get around quite a bit.
That's okay.
But I haven't. Yeah. So
Well, you live in St. Louis County.
we do.
Yeah.
We just moved there a year ago. We were in the city before that, so we were in the city for 7 years, and then prior to that, we'd moved around all over the place.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
There's a ton of cool stuff out here, as you saw. It's obviously like the main drag, but
Yeah.
there's all kinds of other stuff in here and totally walkable.
No, yeah. I have two little kids, so we love exploring. There's ice cream places. It's perfect.
Yeah. So much ice cream in St. Charles. Is it
Is
like
there?
that is there?
No.
I feel like there's like 10 ice cream places I can name just right off the top of my head.
No. There's Jenny's and maybe one or two others.
Okay.
That's all I know.
How's Jenny's?
You don't know?
That's
That's great. You got to go to the West End.
We're like, it's like two different worlds here, right? I mean,
What is it? 170, either east or west, and then
it's the river, I think, is what it is.
Oh yeah, I could see.
That's the buffer. Yeah. Chris, not from St. Louis originally, but you've got some great businesses in St. Louis and in St. Charles, and I wanted to talk about that. But
Thank you.
tell me a little bit about your story. I know that you're from Detroit. We talked about the Lions.
Correct.
You're
yeah.
excited for this year?
I am. I don't know if, I guess Kansas City's a little bit further away, but man, it was a big win. And as a Lions fan and 60, 70 years of no wins, this is a big year.
Yeah.
Big year.
And Goff didn't tear his Achilles on the first play, so
For sure.
my God, that was awful.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough year for them.
All the hype, all the buildup, because the Lions have a ton of hype this year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Hard Knocks 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So people are kind of familiar with the players.
The end of the season last year, pretty strong, at least the last half.
Yeah, knocked Green Bay out of the playoffs.
It's going to be a good year. I'm excited. I kind of regret not being in Detroit for the first time in a long time.
Oh,
but
no. Will you go to any games, you think?
No, it's too far away. I mean, it's an 8-hour drive or 2-hour flight. So I'm too busy. I got too much stuff to do.
Have I told you, and I can save it, it's not really probably of much interest to our audience, but have I told you my Detroit Super Bowl story?
No.
Okay.
Oh, did you go to the Super Bowl when it was in Detroit?
Sort of. I'll tell it. It's a short story.
Sure, let's hear.
Right after college, I worked for these two entrepreneurs, and one of the guys is a huge Steelers fan. So obviously they played in Super Bowl 40 against Seattle. And, throughout the playoffs, he was like, listen, if Pittsburgh makes it to the Super Bowl, we're going to go. We were a small office, like 4 or 5 people. They were in mortgage banking, so they had, they could cover it, right? I was just a young kid, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but it sounds awesome.
Super Bowl, yeah.
Well, so, the way the playoffs and the Super Bowl work, we didn't know until 2 weeks before
Sure.
Pittsburgh is going to be in the Super Bowl. So then they start trying to make all these things happen. Of course, there are no hotel rooms in Detroit 2 weeks before the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And so we end up getting a hotel room in Toledo, Ohio, which is like 45 or 50 minutes away from Detroit. So we're like, whatever, we'll make it work. We'll go downtown on Sunday and we'll hang out and we'll watch the game. So it was funny flying out there. We had to fly we stopped in Detroit to fly to Toledo. There was a lot of bizarre things that happened. So anyway, we find this bar called Frickers. It's attached to the Toledo Mud Hen Stadium.
Okay.
And we kind of make that like our home bar. Like we're just kind of hanging out there. So Sunday comes, we're like, we're going to go downtown. We drive downtown. We got Uber didn't exist, but we got like a car service.
Sure.
We go downtown. We're looking for places to watch the game. Of course, no, there's not a place that has any room, any capacity. We're walking all over the city, all over downtown. It's freezing.
Sure.
Right? the two bosses are trying to like buy scalp tickets or get into the game somehow. There's all kinds of yahoos downtown saying, well, I got this, you can get on the field, but it was probably for like the halftime show or something. We go to the casino. There's no room in the casino. There's nothing anywhere. Finally, it was like 5 o'clock. And I remember piping up and going, guys, we have to go back to Toledo. Like, we're going to miss the game. And so at 5 o'clock on Super Bowl Sunday in Detroit, we got a car service and we went back to Toledo and watched the Super Bowl at Frickers.
That's great.
On TV.
You still remember the name of the bar, right?
I have a glass from it, and it's my favorite. That's my thing, is I get a pint glass. Like if we go on a trip, I get a pint glass from a brewery or restaurant. And so I have the pint glass from there. Awesome. And it was just like, yeah, we went to Detroit to watch the Super Bowl at Frickers in Toledo.
That's awesome. I was down in Detroit. I don't remember what we did, but I remember meeting Nick Lachey, of all people.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
Was Jess with him?
I don't remember. I feel
like you'd remember that.
Yeah, probably. I just remember thinking, why is Nick Lachey in Detroit for the Super Bowl? And I don't know. That was almost 20 years ago, right? 2004?
I think so, yeah. It was 5, 6, or 7. I graduated college in 4, so it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was somewhere around there.
Oh, man.
So get me from Detroit to St. Louis. I know there's a lot of stuff in between there.
Sure. So I'll give you the quick 30-second spiel. So Detroit, was born and raised. I went to college in Flint, Michigan. From Flint, I worked for Detroit and for Ford and General Motors for a few years. Just whatever, entry-level engineering type jobs. It was okay.
Is that what you went to school for?
I did.
Okay.
Engineering undergrad.
Makes sense with the what I know.
Yeah.
Well, no, with the games design that we'll talk about. But
yes, for sure. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Somehow it's just all the experiences. I've had a lot of weird experiences, different industries, different roles, different responsibilities. Somehow they've all really helped me to this point, and I don't know how to explain it, but it's just kind of a weird coincidence.
Yeah.
But, anyways, Detroit, engineer, Flint, about 25, I got accepted to MIT in Boston. So I went back to school. I spent
to go for like an advanced degree?
Yep, for a master's in engineering.
That's like a pretty big deal, right? MIT?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. You're humble. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. And my wife always reminds me, when I graduated, it was only a 9-month program. I got a master's degree. It was great. On graduation day, I was like, all right, like, let's get this over with. Like, what do you want to do later? And she's like, this is kind of a big deal. You should probably like just take it in for a second. I'm like, I'm good. I'm on to what's next. And I think that's like the perfect, like, that's how I am. Like,
that's you in a nutshell. Just
recess opens up, like, what's next?
Yeah.
And not that I don't enjoy things and sit back and relax, but I like the challenge. I like overcoming things. And then once it's done, I'm like, I need something else.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So
did you guys move to Boston, or did just you move?
So yeah, I was 25 years old.
Because we know online classes weren't like that much of a thing.
No, they weren't.
Right?
Yeah. So we, I had a house. I sold my house, and I packed up a couple of suitcases, and I drove out to Boston, and I lived there for about a year. And that's actually where I met my wife. She was working.
She was there.
She was there.
Gotcha.
She went to BU. She stayed after. She was actually working at MIT when I met her, and then. Yeah, it's a long story, but she stayed there for a couple of years. From there, I went to Peoria, Illinois. I worked for Caterpillar. I spent about 6 months in Peoria. Then I traveled all over the U.S., kind of on and off for, a good 2 years. Then I moved to Chicago for 9 months, back to Peoria for 6 months. I moved to Little Rock, Arkansas for 6 months.
Wow.
Back to Peoria for about a year.
I know you married at this time?
We were married.
But she's with you and traveling with you?
Yeah, I think after the Chicago
She's like, I'm not going back to Peoria.
Yeah, well, she was in Boston, and then it was like 3 weeks before Lehman Brothers went bankrupt in 2008, 2009. And she's like, you know what? I'll just move to Peoria. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I'll find a job. We'll figure something out. And it was 3 weeks before basically the start of the biggest recession in a long time. So
I wonder how common Boston to Peoria, how common that move is.
That U-Haul?
How that goes over.
I don't think it's a common route. She moved there. It was okay. We spent a lot of time in Chicago going back and forth.
Sure.
And it was fine. Whatever. It is what it is. But from that last Peoria trip in 2000, I think it was 2010, maybe 2011, I can't remember. must have been 2011. I had the opportunity to move to China, so we moved to Shanghai. We weren't married. We were engaged at the time. We got married 6 weeks before we left. It was kind of a shotgun wedding.
I was going to ask, was that?
No, yeah. So we were,
You were like, we just need to be married. It's going to be easier. I mean, I'm sure you were in love and stuff, but
yeah.
but it was like, we need to do this before we go.
Yeah, we had been engaged for 2 years, and I don't know, neither of us really felt like planning a wedding, so we just hung out and we were engaged, and it was fun. She had a ring, and we were happy. It didn't matter, right?
What's the next thing?
Yeah, so exactly.
She's like, a wedding.
She was never really motivated. So, we found out probably in like July. They said, hey, do you want to go to Chicago or to Shanghai? And I was on the fence. I didn't really know because, I don't know, it's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
But in the end, I figured, hey, what's the worst that happens? We don't like it, and we say, I quit. I'm moving home. Who cares, right? So we did it. But when we decided to go, the company that I moved with was like, hey, look, there's no such thing as a trailing girlfriend. There's a trailing spouse, or she's got to move there herself, which isn't easy in China. So we got married. We rented a boat. We invited 20 of our closest friends, and we got married underneath the Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh, cool.
So it was cool. We rented the boat for 3 hours. We drove all around the harbor and East River and stuff like that. We got married, and then we just.
Now, I've never been to New York, but isn't the East River like polluted and stinky?
We
and
weren't swimming in it.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think so. The whole experience.
You can't
in
smell the
boat-
pictures, so it's
It's
fine.
Exactly. Statue of Liberty looked nice, and yeah, it's great. We had, it was kind of a shotgun wedding, and in hindsight, like I look at a lot of the other weddings we've been to, and I think ours is. I'm super happy with ours.
It's a cool story, a cool experience.
There's 30 people there. We got to talk to people. It wasn't like, hi, good, thanks for coming, see you later, and move on to the next one.
Yeah.
And it was very casual. I don't even know if I wore a suit. And, in the end, the whole thing, our flights, we rented a hotel, we rented a limo, we rented a boat. It probably cost us $10,000.
Yeah.
Which
half or a third of most weddings, probably.
Don't get me wrong, that's a lot of money, but
sure.
It was, it's a good story.
Yeah, very cool.
So anyways, we got married August, and then
August what? I've got an August anniversary.
13th.
Second.
Yeah, I think it just depends what year. What year did you get married?
08.
08. So we got married in 11. So that's Saturday, whenever that falls.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, correct.
Anyway, December 1st, we landed in Shanghai.
Wow.
No idea what we were doing. And for some reason, we had to go that year for tax purposes. I can't remember. We had to leave before Christmas, more or less. So we landed. We didn't know anybody. We didn't know anything. We had a great apartment. We had a beautiful place to live in a great part of the city of Shanghai. And if you haven't been there, it's very political with China. When we moved, it wasn't that political. It was a growing economy, and it worked well. So we had an incredible time, though. We met lots of great people. I still have great relationships with a lot of people I worked with over there, and it was it was an incredible experience.
And you traveled around a lot in Asia and Europe too, right? Or not so much Europe?
A little bit in Europe. Europe was a little bit earlier in college, but we traveled. So my job was managing a big part of Asia Pacific, the growth and building new buildings and things like that for Caterpillar. So, I think in the end, I probably traveled 800,000 miles in 4 years. At one point, there was a 3-day stretch that I was on 4 continents.
Oh, cool.
And
Asia, Australia, Europe.
We went from Italy to New York. My wife stayed there. I went to New York, Chicago. I spent the night. Chicago, Shanghai, spent the night. And the next morning, I got up. I flew to Melbourne.
Wow.
And then from Melbourne, I went to Tasmania. When I woke up, we landed at like 11 o'clock at night. And I remember just being like totally disheveled. I woke up in the morning and I looked outside. I was in a motel because it's Tasmania. There's no hotels.
Okay.
It's like a exterior entrance kind of thing with a little balcony built in the 60s. And I was like, I don't know if I can swear in it, but it's like, where the fuck am I?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was a genuine 30-second oh, yeah, I remember where I am now. So, yeah, Europe, North America, Asia, and Australia.
That's crazy.
And
then
go ahead.
No, I was saying, how did you get back here? Did you leave that job, or
So
just ready to be back in America?
a couple things. My oldest daughter, she was born there. Pollution was kind of bad.
She was born in China.
Yeah.
So does she have like dual citizenship?
That's not allowed according to Chinese
Okay.
law, but
Like anywhere else in the world, she would have it, right? If she were born in France or something?
yeah,
or?
I think so. So my wife's actually, her parents are German, so she has the whole bloodline, and she has a European passport. I think had we been born there, she would have had dual citizenship, but not in China.
Huh.
Yeah,
They're strict about the number of kids and
oh yeah,
Yeah.
It was a great opportunity. We had a lot of fun. We met a lot of great people, but ultimately, you got to keep going, right? You can't do the same thing.
what's
So
next?
We with Caterpillar, we had the opportunity to move back to the U.S. We moved to Minneapolis for 6 months. We got there in August, and we stayed till March. But that whole thing, I'd been there 10 years. I wasn't really happy at that point. And good friend of mine was with Anheuser-Busch, and he made the introduction. And, it was potential we were going to stay in China. That didn't work out. There was maybe opportunity in New York. That didn't work out. My wife's from New York, by the way, in Queens. So going back to New York for her would have been a great opportunity and made her really happy. But ultimately it didn't work out, and they offered me a job in St. Louis. So,
So AB brought you to St. Louis.
yes, sorry, it was a long-winded way.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
No, I imagine that's a pretty common story.
Yeah, I would think so. I guess what I've seen in St. Louis is that it's a great city. There's so much stuff here. There's great food. There's great entertainment. There's, and it's like that whole big city vibe. But at the same time, it takes 15 minutes to get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So much stuff is free or very affordable. And I don't know. Like when we
You're
first,
always like 3 people away from knowing
yes,
everyone too, right?
Yeah.
Like you walked in here and you're like, oh, Manny. I know Manny.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's and I had no idea it was going to be here. So, I think it was the perfect place to try something like Recess or Rec Hall or the Armory. And the city's been affordable, or the city's been super supportive, both from guests, but also from I knew nobody. I didn't have a lawyer, I didn't have an accountant, I didn't have a marketing person, and man, it just, you ask somebody for help and they recommend 4 other people to talk to, and that networking thing is it's extremely powerful here. So we I thought, to be honest, we had moved 15 times in 10 years when we landed here, and I said,
oh, is that a real number?
Yeah. I mean, we moved 4 times in Shanghai. We moved new apartments every year. We moved twice in Minneapolis. We moved 3 times in St. Louis.
Is that like in Shanghai, is that like hey, let's live here. Like we're over here. Let's just live in this part of the city to see what it is.
Kind of.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
I mean, why not?
Yeah.
It's just you two.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we had a beautiful apartment. We could go anywhere, do anything.
Yeah.
A great allowance for housing. So we could live anywhere in the city that we wanted to, like anywhere.
Yeah.
And we just kept moving.
Yeah.
Because we were like, oh, this looks cool.
Yeah.
And then, it costs $200 to have 3 Chinese guys show up and pack all your stuff up. So it was like, no problem, here you go. And it was just such a great experience that we got to see the whole city.
Yeah.
We traveled all over China, went to Korea, Indonesia, went to Australia 3 times. I mean, we were all over. It was great.
That's awesome.
Great experience. Yeah.
Let's take a quick break just to tell you to check out all the local 636 socials. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button and notification bell at the bottom there. That way you're going to get the most up-to-date content and notified when the newest stuff comes out. As far as Local 636, we've got a ton of stuff going on. The best way to follow us is going to be on our Instagram or on our Facebook. And if you just search Local 636 in either one of those things, you will find us. We'll give you the Rec Hall socials here too. Do you know the Rec Hall socials?
I
Let's
do.
go ahead and plug those.
It is Rec Hall, RECHALL STL.
And that's Facebook, Insta.
Yeah, I think Facebook and Insta are 2 primary. We might have a Twitter or X. I think we have TikTok.
Are we
too.
saying Twitter X or what do we calling it?
I don't know. What do you call it?
What do we call? I'm not on it.
I'm not either.
Yeah, I just see the X now.
I think X is good.
It's just called X.
Yes.
Yeah,
Maybe.
that's fine.
There's no bird anymore, though.
Yeah,
The bird is dead.
the bird's dead. Elon killed the bird.
That's right.
People are outraged. Is St. Louis home now?
Yes. So we live in the county. We just moved there kids, schools, all that stuff.
Sure.
So we moved out of the city, unfortunately. We were in Central West End for probably 7 years. Love the area. We love the city. We still spend a lot of time in the city. We just needed something a little bit more.
You've had jobs that have moved you all around.
Yep.
And now you don't have a job per se. You're now a business owner.
Yeah.
So that makes it, I mean, that's get your roots a little deeper.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I was, I said when we moved to St. Louis, I didn't know anything about it. I moved in March, which from my perspective is probably the worst time of the year. You've missed Christmas. All the holidays are past.
Yeah. It's sometimes really cold.
Yeah. It's still dark and there's no leaves on the trees. And I remember getting here and being like, God, I just can't wait for my 2 years to be up. I'm so out of here. I can't wait.
Okay. You had like a contract.
Yeah, I did
Okay.
with AB. So, but it was 2 years. And I don't know. My wife was like, hey, look, every city's got something. We could find something here.
Yeah.
And then, we had an 18-month-old daughter at the time. And all of a sudden she's meeting people and she's like, oh, I went to the zoo today. It was free. And I'm like, oh, the zoo's free? That's cool.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, you know how it is, right? You start meeting people, you start making friends, and then the kids in school. You have kids, right?
I do have kids. Yeah.
Yeah. So now all of a sudden you're those roots and you're like, I don't know if I can move. And then I'm like, God, we have so much stuff now. I don't know if I want to move.
It sounds, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not $200 and a couple
No.
Chinese guys anymore.
No.
It's a lot more and a lot more people.
Yes.
Probably not Chinese. I don't know.
Well,
Whatever
either.
that's worth.
So then we started, I was with AB after about 2 years. I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to do something different.
Get out of just working there, get out of St. Louis.
No, it was really just AB. And to be
Yeah.
honest, at that point, we liked the city. We started making a lot of friends and we started being really happy here and kind of just, we really appreciate the fact that it's affordable. It's great food. You have plenty of sports. There's nothing you don't have. The only
Only
thing,
sports, but you're just watching. You're watching the. I mean, well, actually, no. We're not in conference for anything anymore, right?
yeah.
Red Wings and the Blues were in the same conference for a while, but
yeah.
you're still a Red Wings fan, I assume.
Red Wings, Lions, Tigers, them all. No, I've adopted the St. Louis teams, especially.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the 06 World Series?
Or the Stanley Cup when it was the Stanley Cup when the Red Wings beat the.
That's not. I don't think they've played in the Cup finals.
Maybe it was in the conference.
Definitely
finals.
a lot of conference finals.
Yeah. And there's a 3 overtime. Steve Yzerman's great.
And
Yeah.
that was the quarters, I think.
Was it?
Yeah, it was when Gretzky turned the puck over.
Yeah.
Yzerman blasted the shot over John Casey's shoulder.
Yes. Man, I haven't.
Grant Fuhr had been injured.
I haven't heard those names in a long time.
Yeah, sorry, it's still.
No.
I mean, 2019 erased it, thank God. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a core memory of like I remember sitting on my couch, going like, "We're gonna beat the Red Wings.
Sure.
Like we're gonna finally beat the Red Wings. We're gonna go to the finals." And then he turned, which it's Wayne Gretzky. You can't be mad at him, but he turns the puck over. Yzerman takes a slap shot, and you're just like, "Oh,
How
we're
did that?
done."
Yeah.
Okay.
No, so I was born and raised. I played hockey my whole life. So hockey
Okay.
and the Red Wings for me were like, so I graduated high school in 99 and was it, 96, 97, 98. Like they were
Oh,
really
yeah.
getting good.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
I was a hockey player. I knew every player. I used to go to the games all the time. It was just such a cool experience. So yeah, even though, maybe the Tigers didn't fare so well against the Cardinals, we made up for it at the Red Wings, which was
Have you seen the I forget what it's called, but it's like an E60 documentary. It's like 2.5 hours long about the Red Wings and Avalanche,
oh yeah.
kind of that battle. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Where Ricci and Chris Draper
Yeah.
are in the bar. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. I think, man, I don't know. Even some of those guys like Darren McCarty's still around Detroit, and
McCarty is who it was.
yeah,
He's Draper won't talk to
I understand.
not Mike Ricci,
Well,
Lemieux. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, understandably. Right?
Sure.
Smash his face.
Yes.
into the
Yeah.
yeah, that was a great rivalry. It
was fun.
Yeah,
It
and
was fun as just a hockey fan,
Sure.
not having I was a closet Avalanche fan.
Yeah, I get it.
Peter Forsberg.
Sure.
I don't know
Incredible.
why, but I watched him score the game-winning goal in the Olympics
Oh yeah.
against Canada. I
For some reason that spoke to you, huh?
It did. They made a postage stamp of it, and I have it. In Sweden, they
Okay.
made a postage stamp of him scoring that goal. Corey Hirsch was the goalie who would play in the NHL. Paul Correa had a shot after Forsberg, didn't score on, I think it was Tommy Salo.
Wow.
But tons of, yeah, I know.
I'm impressed.
Nothing good in here. All just random 90s hockey trivia.
Sure.
Tons of stars on, I mean, tons of future NHLers on both of those teams,
Yep.
Canada and Sweden. But yeah, I was a huge Peter Forsberg fan. My first email address was like ForsbergFan21, and I'm in a chat room at age 17 or 16, and some guy's like, I have a stamp. I'm lucky I didn't get whatever, but he actually sent me the stamp, and
Wow.
he sent me the stamp. Yeah,
That's when
So
the
I have
internet
that,
was still somewhat pure, huh?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, I loved that rivalry, man. I loved it. It was fun to watch. So
They're great players on both sides, from Patrick Wall and Joe Sakic and Forsberg.
oh my God, Yzerman, the what do they call that line? The Wizard of Oz.
The
Fedorov, Kozlov, Konstantinov,
Russian five.
Larionov. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it was a great line. You had, Osgood and
Vernon,
Vernon.
and then Hasek was there. It was,
Oh,
yeah.
God.
It's
Yeah.
go on for-
Chris Chelios would play for him.
Yeah.
Paul Coffey.
Oh yeah,
Great
on
teams.
and on. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I hate the Red Wings, but you have to,
Yeah.
you have to respect it.
yeah. I mean, living and growing up in Detroit at that time, it couldn't have been a better time.
Yeah.
So
When did they win? And then obviously you had Brett Hall, and they won the
Yeah.
cup in 2000 with him.
yeah, I don't remember all the years, but yeah, for sure, he was part of him and Shanahan were like the
Shanahan,
two.
too.
Yeah, oh, he was a blues too, right?
Yeah.
He was a blues player.
Mhm. Yep. Okay, so you're in St. Louis. You're working for AB. Your 2 years is up.
Yep.
And you're just like, I'm done. I'm just not going to have a job, or
No, I stuck it out. In the corporate world, I have a degree, obviously, from MIT. That goes a long way. If I say, hey, I'm looking for a job, I'm very fortunate in the fact that I could find a job fairly easily. So
yeah,
I didn't really want to move, to be honest. I was shocked. 2 years ago, had you asked me if that came up, I'd have been like, let's get out of here. But at
Yeah.
that point, I had a 3-year-old. I think my wife was pregnant. I can't remember if she was pregnant or we already had our second. But, moving with 2 kids, let alone one,
Yeah.
is hard, and not knowing where you're going and starting over. So I wanted to stay, and an opportunity came up with a different company. It was called Keefe Commissary. This is what I love about St. Louis. There are so many companies with $100 million, $1 billion in revenue that you've just never heard of.
yeah. I've never heard of Keefe.
Yeah.
Is it marijuana related?
No,
Okay.
it was. They are the largest. It's a good guess, right?
Is it like someone's last name, I guess.
I don't know what the origin is. They were.
Is it marijuana infused fruit? You just didn't know it.
Right.
Why are all these people always happy around here? Everybody's so laid back, and
I guess somewhat tangentially related. They were the largest prison commissary supply company. In the country.
okay.
I don't know. Maybe we talked about that.
I think
but,
you mentioned that. Yeah.
hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, and it's very controversial business. But they had an opportunity to come up, which is pretty senior.
It's controversial because the state's paying for it,
or
or why is it controversial?
If anybody from Keefe listens to this, they're
They're not. They're not listening.
No, it's fine. They're great people there. I've good connections with them still. But they make some money. They make money off inmates, more or less, right? Who have no other place to get money. So
yeah, but they have to eat.
yeah, for sure. And look, I think at the end of the day, the Keefe Group, they're good people, and they're trying to provide a good service to people who are incarcerated. And I think it's just controversial because
people want to make controversy.
yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I think everybody wants everyone to do it for free, but the truth is it's a business, and
Sure.
I know with not profit, nobody's interested in doing it. So it's just controversial. But at the end of the day, it's a great company, and there's good people there, and they do a lot for inmates. They do a lot for St. Louis, and it's good company. So
Yeah.
I had an opportunity to go there. It was a pretty senior role, and I showed up, and probably a month after I got there, I was like, oh, man, same thing again. I hate this. So I think I started it in October, and it was the holidays, and I'm like, God, what am I doing? I'm not happy. Like, this is not at all how I expect. It's 36, 37.
Had you felt like that previously, like working for someone? And it's not a slide at like any of the companies.
No, yeah.
Right? Like you can work for a great company, but just not be happy. Maybe it's a boss or a supervisor, or maybe it's just that you you just can't work for people?
You know what I think it is? I like to work for people who I can learn from and who teach me stuff and show me things I don't know, right? Like I genuinely have a lot of respect for that. The thing I think I've missed, I came from like a very blue collar background, right? So, you know, instilled in me was like, go to college, get a good job, do the safe thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
in 40 years you can retire. And that was like so ingrained in like my personality that I would do that. And then I'd be like, why did I do this again? So I don't know. It was like, I had this like, not to get like too deep, but it's like, I had this like fight
Let's go
between like,
deep.
what
Yeah.
should I do?
Yeah.
But I just keep doing the same thing. I think what I really wanted was to go to a company that was growing and be a part of something that was cool with like young people and like, you know, and that's what Keefe was at one time. They went from like $3 or $4 million a year in revenue in the 80s to like $700 million when I was there, or
Wow.
$1 billion. I can't remember what the
Yeah.
number is, but it was huge, right? And like, you talk to all the guys who have been there 30 years, and it was like they were hanging out with their buddy. They just show up to work every day and be like, "Hey, man, what's up? You want to go lunch?" You know, I never had that. I never had like a place that was like, you know, everything's just going so well. You're like, man, this is awesome. Nothing could go wrong. And
Yeah.
I think with growth and with a good industry, we're like, look, I really liked the culture at ABI. I like the people there. I just didn't like the fact that they were shrinking. Like they were, you know, under the Bush family, they were growing. And then the Brazilians came and it was like, just figure out how to cut costs every year. And, you know, when you're shrinking, it's not fun because it's just like, oh, who's going to get fired next? Kind of, you know, that's
What are they going to take away today?
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It was just, I don't know, after 15, 16 years, I was like, why do I keep doing this to myself? Right? I
Yeah.
had plenty of time, opportunities to go to Apple or to go to Amazon. And this was in the early 2000s. Like, how cool would it to be?
Oh, yeah.
It would have been incredible. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just get a good job and retire in 40 years is so ingrained in my like mindset that I was like,
So what pushed you? So we know that Rec Hall was first, and Rec Hall was first. Like that's the
recess. Yeah.
recess. I'm sorry.
it's
Yeah.
okay.
Recess was first. So what pushed you to do that? Like
You know,
you were at work and you're just like, I just have to do something different.
that was part of it. I had a neighbor who, when we moved to Central West End, we moved into a house. We lived next door to each other, and he's a great whole. I'll have to introduce you. Maybe we'll go to lunch one time because he's a Dutch guy. He's got this whole story about how he moved to the U.S. and he's like, well, what am I going to do? And he was.
Did I hear a story about him last time we talked?
Maybe.
Is this the same neighbor?
Yes, probably.
Okay.
I only have one neighbor who's Dutch. So it was like, but he's got this great story about how he moved to St. Louis and he met his wife in like South America in high school, and then they went to college and they kept in touch and they moved here and they got married and all this. He's like, what do I do? So he was employee number 3 of this like company that was based in Clayton, and he was their sales guy, and he grew it to like $50 million a year in revenue, and they sold it, and then he didn't have equity, so
He's just out of a job.
more he had an opportunity to go somewhere else. And if you got to know him, he is not the kind of person who will work for somebody and follow the rules at a big Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
So that didn't work out. But I would come home from AB at 5:30, 6 o'clock every day after leaving at 6, 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, "Hey, I've been playing with your kids for 3 hours. Like, what? Why don't you get home sooner?" And
So European of him.
yes, yeah. But it was great. He's very entrepreneurial, and every day I'd come home, I'd go inside, I'd get a beer, and I'd come outside, I'd give him a beer, and I'm like, "How's your day?" And he's like, "It was great. I fucked around for 4 hours, and I made 2 phone calls, and I just signed this $10,000 a month contract." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" And he's like, "Then I came home and played with your kids and my kids." So it was great. He's a great friend of mine, probably one of my best friends in St. Louis, but he was the motivator. He's like, just do something. He's like, it doesn't matter what, just do something.
Yeah.
And I was like, what does that mean? It's just stupid. Just do something is not.
When you've got it seems like you're a little bit different than most, but you've got like the engineer brain of like kind of what you said, like get a job and work there for 40 years. And that's a very, like the engineers that I've worked with in my insurance business, it's very It has to make sense. It's down to the number.
Yeah.
They've got to see all the options and evaluate, and they're going to go with the safest, best option. Right. So for you to be saying like, just do something, yeah, that doesn't make sense to you. I wouldn't think.
No, I had I've always been very entrepreneurial. When I was in high school, I used to work at this kitchen cabinet shop, and then people would like, hey, can you put a kitchen in my house? And I'd be like, sure, no problem. And I was making a ton of money in high school that, I just learned how to do that at it's the right place, right time. That's a whole different story. But I love that. And then my mom was like, you can't do construction stuff forever. And I was like, why not? I was 16 years old. I was like, sure I can. I was like, look how much money I'm making. I'm 16. Like I have more money than anybody in my school, right? And she's like, well, look, she's like, things change. She's like, you're really good at math. Why don't you go do something else? And I was like, fine. She's like, you can always do this at the end. Just go to school. And I'm like, fine, whatever. So anyway, he pushed me and pushed me and pushed me. He helped me, gave me some ideas. None of them really worked out, but I tried them.
Okay.
And
you tried to like start other businesses or what?
Yeah.
Give me some of the failed ones.
They were such failures. I don't even know if I'd consider it a start. That whole construction thing, my mom, my little brother, and I, we bought a bunch of houses. We bought it in 2009. We were buying houses for like $5,000.
It's a good time to buy houses.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah.
We'd spend 15, 20 grand on them, and then we held on to them, rented them. We didn't really make much money renting. But then at the end of the day, we had like, 10, 12 units, 15 doors or something like that.
Yeah.
We had all this property, and then my mom's like, I'm sick of doing this. She's like, people move out, they destroy the place. They weren't like, it wasn't in like.
Yeah, you're buying a $5,000 house.
Yeah. But they were still good people, and we cleaned them up and we made them nicer, but at the end of the day it was still just a tough demographic. So she's like, we need to sell this. And so we had 12 properties, 15 doors, and then at this time, this was like 2017, 2018, we're like, let's just sell them. And if you guys remember, that was pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
The economy was on fire, so we sold all this stuff and we had all this money. And then that's what kind of my Dutch friend pushed me like, just do something. And then I had all this money, and my mom's like, I don't know what to do with it, and my little brother's like, I don't know what to do with it, and I'm like, I'll figure out something to do with it. Give me this money. So and I sold them on the recess concept. So they were like, sure, we're in for a couple $100,000. I was like, fine, I'm gonna do the rest. I invited all my friends from AB, because I told my friends from AB like, hey, I want to do this, and they were like, great, we'll support you. So I called 10 of them. They each gave me 5-10 grand or whatever. And and then, this was, so before I called them, but my mom, my little brother, the first people I called them, like, look, we saw this guy in another city that we had seen before. And when we left his property, he rolled up in a Ferrari. And
this is what we were talking. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole inspiration for Recess was a different venue in another city. And we didn't copy it anywhere near. We borrowed one of the games that he had.
I am on record on this podcast saying I don't have hardly any original thoughts.
Yeah.
It's all borrowed. It's all taken from somewhere. You put your own spin on it. You make it your own. But exactly. I mean, there's very few like original ideas.
I completely agree. There's a great book called Steal Like an Artist. And, that's the whole premise.
Angel knows the book.
Oh yeah. It's a great book.
I love that book. It's pretty awesome.
It is. It's a great book, and the whole premise is exactly that. Like, hey, there's so few original ideas, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't do something.
If it's working here, maybe it works here.
Yeah.
If it's working like this, maybe you tweak one thing or
yeah. And that's what we did. Like, he had a great concept, but there's other ones like Punch Bowl Social was another one that was very similar. Anyway, I forgot how we got on that, but
we're talking about just the formation of Recess. So
so super unhappy in my corporate world. And I tried a bunch of things. We were fortunate we had a little bit of money. And I convinced my mom, my little brother, I'm like, look, I need $500,000 total. I have a little money. Why don't you guys put in a little bit? And they said, fine. After 3 weeks of prodding, they said, fine. If you come up with a good idea and it's legitimate, we'll go in with you. So I had their backing. I started looking for property. excuse me, couldn't find anything. We were all over. I got rejected 3 or 4 times. I couldn't find anything. After about 4 months, I kind of gave up. But I had a broker that was working, and one day he called me and he's like, "Hey, I have the perfect place. It's in the Grove. It's this old, it was a plumber's supply warehouse, 50,000 square feet, tall ceilings like you need it. There's plenty of other bars and activities and restaurants in the area. You got to see it. And it's the only place in the Grove with parking." And I'm like, "That sounds perfect." I went and saw it that day. I started negotiating with the landlord to lease it because I think they wanted $3 million for the place. I didn't have that money.
Yeah.
So start negotiating a lease, and all of a sudden, the other broker who was representing the owner of the building just goes to us, nothing. And I'm like, what the heck? So found out a couple months later that the property had been bought by Green Street Real Estate Ventures, and they were going to demolish the building and build apartments there, which they've done, and it's there now. But anyway, I met Phil.
Oh, they have done that since?
They have.
Okay.
And the apartments are beautiful. They're in the Grove. But they, he said, "Hey, I just bought this building. It's going to take us 18 months to get permits and designs and all that stuff." He's like, "You can have the building and test your concept there." I said, "Perfect." So we negotiated a great deal. I got all the money who had committed to invest, and I raised about $500,000. And then it was kind of the whole reason I did it, back to my friend who's like, "Just do it." I found that building, and before I even had the money, I was like, I'm signing this lease because it commits me to do something. I can't back out of it, right? So I signed the lease, and then I called my mom and my little brother. I'm like, "Hey, I signed this. Like, you guys really need to deliver on this money." and they him and nod, but ultimately they said fine. I called in my friends. I told them what I was doing, and that's, they each gave me $5,000-10,000.
And when you were like telling them the concept, had they heard of anything like that before?
No.
Okay.
I don't think that really existed in St. Louis at the time.
And what is we've talked around it.
Sure.
Say what the concept is.
It's called, I think a lot of people refer to it as like eatertainment, but I'm not a huge fan of that because to me that implies like it's all about food with a little bit of entertainment. Ours is more like just a gaming venue. I'd say, if you go there, it's Rec Hall, it's 33,000 square feet, and I would say at least 25,000 square feet is just games.
Yeah.
Cornhole and giant pong, and we just added this giant battleship game. It's like 8 feet tall, and it's like the original battleship you play in your lap, but it's monster size.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of games like that. We're actually in the process of adding a lot more, but
it's all kind of like backyard-ish type games.
Yeah. So back to your point about like there's no original ideas. Like we saw those concepts other places, but we're like, man, we really just want a place where like families can go, play some games. It's chill, comfortable seating. You just hang out and play some games, and that's it. It's like your best friend's backyard. It's like a tailgate. It's like,
It's all those things kind of rolled into one. And was Recess the same? I mean, it was bigger, obviously, than Rec Hall, but same concept, same
concept. We've added more games at Rec Hall since then because I think what I've learned in hospitality is you got to keep it fresh. You got to keep give a reason for people to come. So, it was just that. It was big games, tailgate games, and it was inside. And we opened the day after Thanksgiving of 2019. We had a couple.
The day after Thanksgiving of 2019.
Yep.
So everyone listening at home knows what happens next.
Yeah. We had 5 months. At that time, I still had a full-time job. I had 2 little kids. My wife actually got sick at that time. We had a whole thing, but it was all right in the middle. I was working, I don't know, towards the end, probably 110 hours a week.
Are you still at your like job?
Still a full-time job. I still have bills to pay.
Yeah.
All that stuff. But I've never been more excited to do things, and it was mine, and I had a building, and I had committed. I had $300,000 of other people's money that I felt like
you gotta make good on this.
Yeah, like I can't be like I'm tired. That's not an option. Especially my mom, my little brother. Like I grew up very blue collar, middle class. Like $300,000 is a lot of money, and I put another $200,000 of my money in, which I worked hard for.
Yeah.
So I was all in, and if someone gave me a price I didn't like, I just did it myself, kind of thing. So we opened the day after Thanksgiving. I didn't know anything about what I was doing. I hired a good group of people, some of which are still with me today. And we didn't market. So
You didn't market.
we didn't. We spent like $2,000 marketing before opening.
You just kind of opened your doors and
Thought people would show up.
yeah. Did they?
No. The first, so it's funny, like I'd been gone so much, I was literally working like 110 hours a week and, 7 days a week. I'd see my kids a little bit. My wife is super supportive through the whole thing. When it opened, she's like, look, you've been gone continuously for 2 months. I haven't seen you. She's like, I really want to go to this concert. I'm like, you want to go to a concert the day that we're opening? And she's like, yes.
What concert was it?
I don't know. Some jazz concert. I don't remember. But that was the worst part because it was a jazz concert. You couldn't pull out your phone and I couldn't see what our sales were. So I had no idea who came, how many people came. And it was like a 2.5-hour concert. So
you went.
I went. Yeah.
It was the day that you opened.
Yes. To Friday. And I got out of the concert. The first thing I do is look and our sales were like $400 or something. Oh. So I was like, oh no, I just blew $500,000. Like, how am I going to explain this to my friends and family? So, it's 3 weeks later. It was incredible.
What changed in those 3 weeks?
So it's funny. I spent a lot more time there after, and I'm like, hey, how'd you guys hear about us? Someone sent us a snap, and we came over there, and I saw you on Instagram, and I've been meaning to come, and that's a great time to open because people are home. It's cold outside.
Yeah.
People want something to do.
Yeah.
So I didn't know it, but it worked out perfectly at the
Yeah.
time. So by 3 weeks, it was incredible. The Christmas holiday, it was insane. And I remember like the second week of February, like I got a text from a friend of mine, and he was one of our investors. He had given me $5,000 or something. He worked at AB. He gave me some money, and then one of his friends texted him he was in Wyoming, and he sent me the text back to St. Louis. He's like, looks like it's going well. And it was a picture of this guy at the end of a line, and there was 150 people in line to get in the building. We had a 750 person capacity, and it was full. So
Wow.
it was like, I was like, clearly did something right. Like it came together. So
yeah, people just loved it. I mean, once people knew about it, you didn't do a great job of marketing it,
yes,
but
lesson learned.
Once people found out what it was,
that day we had 2,200 people come, which now that I see the armor,
wow.
I'm like, oh, it's nothing, but it's still,
sure.
It was an old warehouse. Like I spent 3 days power washing the thing because there's so much dirt in there.
Yeah.
And it worked out well, and it was fun, and tried to create a great culture with the employees, and it just worked. So.
And then what happened in March?
So March 18th, 2 things happened that day. The bus that we bought, because my thought was like, hey, we have 200 parking spots.
The bus that's out at Rec Hall now?
It's the bus that's out
Okay.
at Rec Hall. It has
Does that thing move?
32 miles on it because I drove it from...
32 miles since you've owned it, or 32 original miles?
No, since I've owned it.
Okay.
It's because I drove it from St. Louis to St. Charles, and it hasn't moved since. But so March 18th, that bus got delivered. And then
no.
March 18th was the day that the city shut everything down. So
Yeah.
we scrambled.
You're open 4 months. A day, a little less, right?
It was 16 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's tough. I mean, at that point,
16 weeks.
Yeah.
That was it.
that was it. We had a short-term lease there. It was month to month, really. He could have kicked us out at any time. Fortunately, he let us at least open and test through March, and it worked out great. We had made most of our money back, and then the government funding helped a little bit too.
Okay.
And that's when one of our guests emailed me and said, hey, do you want to go other places? And I said, sure. If you find something, let me know.
You'd mentioned you were getting like, not opportunities, but suggestions or ideas to franchise.
Yeah, we get an email every other week about people saying, hey, I'm in Chicago. I'd love to open one of those here. Or I don't remember. They were all over.
Do you think that's odd? Like, because to me, like, okay, we'll just open it and call it something different. Like,
That's kind of what I thought, right?
I mean, that's what you did.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think so. We worked with Atomic Dust on the branding, and I don't know. I just thought that looked cool. It had a cool vibe. It had,
Yeah.
I don't know, and it's funny now that we've been open in St. Charles and we get a lot of we have family days from noon to 6 every Friday and Saturday. So, if you're looking for something to do and it's cold outside or too hot, you want to have a few beers and you want your kids to run around, like it's a perfect place to hang out.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of dads who are in there and their kids are playing games and they're like, so they're drinking their beers. Like, this is pretty simple. Like, maybe, how much does it cost to open a place like this?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who think like, oh, this is really simple. And to be honest, that's what I thought too. But
It's simple. It's not easy though.
yeah,
It's simple in that, it's just a warehouse with some cornhole boards and whatever else. But it doesn't mean it's easy to do.
it is so much more in depth and complicated. Sure, it's easy to open the place, but to actually run it and be good, whether it's from a service perspective or from a marketing perspective, or just think about how hard it is to like find employees and train them and make sure that they understand that like this is all the money I have, and if you aren't nice to people, they're not going to show back up. It's like I can't.
Some of it's not even mine.
Right. Exactly. But I just want you to like make people happy and in this industry, hospitality in general, is just, there's a lot of turnover and it's hard to like, just embed that in people. Like
You mentioned this, you've had several of the same staff from at least day one at Rec Hall, right?
Yeah. So our general manager, Devin, he started as a bar back, and Kate, who's our event manager, she's been there. They're both officially hired on November 4th of 19, I think.
Yeah.
They both been there. Yeah. And
So get me from recess and then COVID hits.
Yep.
And you're just done. Like
Yeah.
the city closes and you're done.
Yep.
And you don't know when or if it's going to reopen or how it looks. And so get me to Rec Hall from there.
Sure. So again, I'm still working full time, and that was that. So I still had plenty.
Well, you're
to
still
do.
You're still working at this time.
I did, yeah, or I was.
Yeah. You're not now.
I'm not now.
Okay.
Yeah. And so most people probably had no idea what supply chain was prior to this, but
Right. I know.
I was a VP of supply chain for a company that did close.
We don't really know what it is. We just know it's broken now.
Right, exactly. So that was my job, was to make sure that the stuff we ordered from Asia and from our suppliers in the U.S. and Indonesia, that would all arrive in time and sit in our warehouses just in time for when a customer ordered it, that we'd have enough to send it to them. So I went from opening this bar and being crazy to getting it open in March, and I think I finally caught up on sleep from like January to March, because I was like, it's open, I have good people that run it, it's fine. COVID hits, and then all of a sudden it was like, instead of focused all my effort and energy on the bar, I'm still working and I'm still doing what I can. I'm still doing what I need to do, all in the bar. And then it goes from nothing in the bar all the way to like, I need to figure out supply chain problems. So that was crazy. We spent, 6 to 8 months really focused on that. And then I had somebody reach out to me that was a guest at Recess. They said, hey, I'm a broker, real estate broker. I'd love to help you grow. I have a great concept. I said, sure. If you find something, call me. He called me the next day and he said, I have this great place in St. Charles. And he said, this is the rate. And I said, no, thanks. It's too expensive. And then he called back the next day with less than half of the rate. And he said, hey, are you interested in this?
The next day.
Yeah. It wasn't a
He had a little padded in there probably.
Yeah, maybe. So I met the real estate, or the owner of the property. He seemed like he was a great guy. He's like, sure, I'd love to do this, whatever you need. He was so flexible. The building had been vacant a while. He's like, you want a 1-year lease to test this? Fine, I don't care.
Which is crazy in a commercial lease in general, but a commercial space that big.
Yeah.
To give you a 1-year lease.
And I think, St. Charles is growing down by the river and downtown and stuff like that. I think that was it still is probably a little bit underappreciated, but there's Lindenwood kids there. There's plenty of apartments there. It's a great neighborhood, and we're really happy to be there.
And where we're talking about, can we get that Rec Hall logo thrown up there? It's a great looking logo. What we're talking about is the old Schnucks on, is it Drosty or Duchenne? I guess it's on Duchenne.
Yep.
Drosty's behind it.
Correct.
But it's at the intersection there.
Yeah.
That was our go-to Schnucks. But I don't know if you told me this or someone else, but that was the only like independently owned Schnucks. I don't know if you know any of that.
I didn't know.
Like there's like, I guess the Schnucks family, and then, well, because it's odd to see like a Schnucks go out of business, right? Like you don't see that.
What I heard, it was a grocery store that Schnucks had acquired, and it was there. It was a little bit smaller than their general preferred format.
Okay.
So when they open a new one, the next exit down, I think they open that, which is 2 or 3 times the size. They close that.
Yeah, that's true. They put one at Lindenwood there.
Yeah.
And then since that, it had been a couple things, like maybe some thrift stores.
Yeah, there's one with maybe a somewhat ironic name, was Here Today. They were only in business for 18 months, I think.
That's right.
And that was the last tenant. So yeah, they were there. They went out of business, and then, you know, from the time Schnucks left until we rented, it was probably a good 6-7 years with only one tenant for 18 months. So landlord was desperate, and it was COVID. People were the real estate market had crashed. So he offered us a great deal, and we started working on it.
And more importantly, St. Charles was open.
Yeah.
I mean, people were literally coming here by the busload.
Yeah.
To hang out and to experience
Life. Right?
Yeah.
And like the whole city was extremely supportive. Even the mayor came out on opening night, and he gave us the key of the city, which, my mom was there, and she's like, "Oh, this is so exciting." And then back for me, I was like, "Oh, this is great. What's next?" kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was great. St. Charles has been a great city for us. We were really happy here. Great guests, great people. All that stuff's been good.
Let's talk about like what's in there. We've talked about it a little bit, but it is such a big space. I mean, if you think about a grocery store, and I don't know, a lot of times you're in the grocery store and you're not seeing the whole thing because it's aisles and there's things. But I mean, when you open it up, it's a huge space. Even for a quote small grocery store, it's huge. So you walk in and you've got games to either side. You've got the cornhole and what do you call it? The air bowling.
We do. So the football, bowling pin.
Football.
Yeah.
So you've got the bowling pin set up just like bowling, but you're throwing a football.
Correct.
You've got cornhole. You've got, I call it giant beer pong, but is that
giant pong? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like instead of the solo cups, it's big trash cans and volleyballs.
Yep.
You've got a giant battleship, which is, I mean, what are the dimensions? Thing's huge. Like
Yeah.
you can walk on it.
Yeah. You need to. It's I think it's 8 feet wide. It's 7 feet tall, and the trays on the bottom reach 7 feet wide as well. So
Yeah, I mean the pegs are like that big.
right. It's like a piece of PVC that's been painted.
Yeah.
So and that's so I'd say it's sort of been an evolution. We've learned. We started with just like cornhole and bocce ball and the air bowling game. We had some shuffleboard and stuff like that at the first location. It went well because I think people hadn't really seen that before. You know, there's not many places you can go throw a football inside and it's acceptable.
Yeah,
right?
correct. Yeah.
And we had street hockey there because the All-Star game was here in St. Louis in 2019, which was kind of, we were talking about hockey a little bit before, but Wayne Gretzky was launching his liquor brand, and he almost had it at recess. And I remember thinking, like,
really?
this is so, Brett Hall was there. It was between us and I think Westport Social, and Westport Social ended up ultimately winning, and, probably rightfully so. They have a really nice venue where ours is like.
It's a different vibe.
It is, for sure.
It's like, it's more of like a nightlife.
Yeah.
Rec Hall is more of like a backyard hangout.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's much more of a St. Charles vibe to me.
Yeah. It's casual.
Yeah.
You can show up in yoga pants. You can show up in a suit. We've had people propose there. We've had wedding parties. We've had anniversary. We've had divorce parties. Like diaper parties are really popular.
Yeah.
It's super casual. We that was the whole vibe. Like, what do you wear when you go to your buddy's house?
Yeah.
Do you care?
Comfortable as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the vibe we want. So.
You've got an awesome event space too. And I mean, it's a space. The space isn't super awesome, but you have a nice event space.
Yep.
It's private. It's actually behind the main bar.
Yeah.
And you've got the bar kind of on both sides. So you have like your own bar access back there.
Yeah, absolutely.
We rented it out for a leadership conference.
Oh, great.
And then Kate put together almost like a little tournament for us.
Yeah.
So we had 25 or 30 people, and she split us up into teams, and we did cornhole and air bowling.
Bar Olympics, yeah.
Bar Olympics, yeah. And but it was great because we just had to show up, and we had an agenda for our meeting, and we did that. But we're getting drinks. She's like, okay, it's time to do this. We're playing games. It was so much fun.
Yeah. I think if you've ever been somewhere for a corporate event, you have dinner and you don't really know everybody, and it's kind of like, so, and you're sitting at dinner and you're stuck, you can't move, it can be awkward. But if you come there, it's like, grab a couple bush lights and throw a football at something, or and it's very casual. You can open up. If the conversation's awkward, you'll be like, I need to go get a drink, and you can bolt out of there, right?
Right.
So, and I think the whole point was, this is really important for us, is like, we wanted it to be, St. Louis, we want it to be affordable. We want it to be enjoyable. We want people to come back because they have a good time. And, they don't feel like, I had fun, but it cost $100. Like, it's like, I had fun and I spent $20, $30.
Yeah.
So,
it is very affordable. There is a cover, which is probably not the most conventional thing in St. Charles.
Yeah.
But it works because you get access to all these things.
Yeah.
All the games are free once you're in there.
Yep.
It's so big that I haven't been there when it's been like crowded, but I've also never had to wait.
Yeah, I think, on one hand, sure, we'd love to see, more people and stuff like that. But at the same time, more people means probably slightly worse guest experience. So it's a good balance. And I think what we'll see is we're the original games were like plywood and 2x4s. And, I was going to this bowling alley, just buying like all of his used pins. And he's like, why are you buying all my pins for $1 a piece? And I was like, oh, I'm playing this, I'm building this bar, this game or whatever. And he's like, oh, that's really cool. But the whole point is, like, we did the whole first place for $200,000. Now the second one cost a lot more because it was permanent. But, the whole point was like, it's like your buddy's backyard. Like, you slap together plywood and
when you're doing a lot of it, right? You're building a lot of the games.
I had been, it's just, I'm pretty busy right now with the armory and stuff like that. But, so we started outsourcing it. And what we found is that there's a lot better carpenters with a lot better ideas. And this most recent one was Battleship. And, Battleship is, it's an old Milton Bradley or something like that game, but it's painted and the ships actually look like ships, and they're,
when I heard that you were getting this and we were invited to come try it out, which was a blast. I didn't know what to expect, and it's literally just giant Battleship.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like the game just got blown up to, 20, 30 times the size.
Sure. It's just, I don't know, if it's bigger, it's more fun, I think, is the idea. So, what we're going to try and do next, that one's much higher end, much more better quality. I think we're going to start trying to focus on more games like that. Like, think about skee ball, but instead of like a 8-foot, bat or whatever, this one will be like 25 feet, and the balls will be like basketballs. And so we're, it's skee ball. It's, some games we already have at the armory. We're going to add. I have a list of. Once I saw Battleship, I'm like, oh my God, you could do this with any game. Like,
yeah, that's right. It kind of opens up your mind to think about what else could be. What about like Operation? Giant tweezers or something?
Yeah. I don't want to give them all away, but absolutely. Like, that's one. And I just saw, a couple little nieces and I saw them playing. You remember that game where you like turn the dial and it starts shaking and you got to put all the pieces in? And before it runs out of time, it'll all like blast up. Like, I'm like, oh my God, what if we did that and you had to put all the beers there? And if you didn't get them in there in time, all the beers blow up on you.
And they got to buy new beer too.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, if you just put your perspective and change it a little bit and be like, oh my God, like we could do some really cool things.
Yeah, that's the same thing we were talking about with Battleship. You're not doing anything new. You're just taking that and making it bigger.
Exactly.
Or making it different or whatever.
I think Scrabble would be fun. I think
you have Scrabble?
We had one.
It's like on the wall.
We got rid of that a long time ago.
Okay.
It was.
People don't want to get drunk and play.
I do.
Spell words.
But the setup we had wasn't very good, and I don't know. It didn't work out at the time. I think we have a new approach, and now that I see Battleship and I can say, hey, somebody do this, it's a different perspective.
You have Jenga.
You
have
Connect 4.
I call it Connect 4.
Yep.
Is that what you called? Yeah.
Giant Connect 4. We have Ring on a String, where you got to hook the ring on
you throw the thing.
Yeah. And then you play for a shot.
Arcade games now. Some video games.
Do have arcade games. I think we're going to try and up our game a little bit there.
Those are fun.
Yeah.
And then brand new is the food.
It is, yes.
So before you, and a lot of places are like this, you could bring in your own food because you didn't have it.
Yeah.
And now you have some pizza.
We do.
You can't bring in your own food anymore.
Correct.
Don't bring in food to Rec Hall.
Thank you. It's a big change. I think we still for bigger parties and back to your point about you went there and you had an agenda and bar Olympics and stuff. It's really popular at Christmas time. In fact, we're almost sold out in December. But if people are interested in something with a corporation, like we're very I would say we're more cost effective than almost any other venue.
Yeah, just saw because that same group is I think going to do a happy hour there, and so Kate just sent me the
great
price list, and it's super affordable.
Yeah, and again, that's what we want. Like we're not making a ton of money. We're doing it because it's fun and we enjoy it and all that stuff. So, anyway, we're trying to transition to higher end games. We'll still have giant pong. We'll still have cornhole. I think those are kind of fundamental to the whole tailgate concept, but. We're going to try and do things that other people don't have. So
yeah, I love it. And let's talk about, we haven't talked about the outside.
Yeah.
It's going to lead us into
big event, right?
Next thing. So I talked to someone who worked with you and I was like, hey, does Rec Hall have a stage? I was talking with this band Danger Party and they were like, hey, have us on the podcast again. And I was like, well, I love you guys, but sure. You don't play any shows in St. Charles. Like I need to have a reason to have you on. This is a podcast about St. Charles, for St. Charles. And so kind of my whole thing is like, if something doesn't exist, we're just going to make it.
Do it.
Like we're just going to have it. And so that's kind of where Make a Scene came from out of Local 636 was like literally, I mean, it's twofold for me. It's be disruptive for local music. There's one venue, Diamond Music Hall, and it's a good venue, but it has its place for the types of bands that play there. Everything all right back there? Yeah. Okay. All right. So it's like, I never know what these guys do. They have one beer and they're walking in front of the camera and cut off.
We're watching movies back here.
I saw you guys looking at your phone. So it's literally like, let's make it happen here. So that's when I texted our friend and I said, hey, is there a stage at Rec Hall? Because it's a huge venue.
Yeah.
And I knew there was a tie-in with the Armory. You guys have had shows there.
Yeah.
And
Danger Party actually played, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. But I think you had just started on the stage and you're building a stage. It's done. It's mostly done.
Yeah. It'll be done very soon.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the problem with the old grocery store is it's an old grocery store, right? And you can only do so much to make it not look like a grocery store anymore. But the back patio, if you want, it's got a big beer trailer with draft beer, and we got some nice seating and fire pits and all that stuff. It's kind of nice. But the problem is when you look, you still see kind of a crappy backdrop. So
I think we talked about this. I think that's because I think if you brought someone there that didn't know what it was, sure. I don't think that they would think it was an old grocery store. I could be wrong.
It's great. I hope so.
But the back doesn't, I mean, it looks like it was, for sure, it's something else. It was something else, but I don't know that it looks like, it doesn't look out of place. I mean, the back there, and when we have, you guys throw that graphic up there? When we have this event on October 13th, you're definitely going to know, you're definitely not going to think it was an old grocery store.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, the stage was kind of the end cap. It was kind of going to be to make it more of a controlled. It's probably 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. Just a patio to hang out. But I think with the stage, whether it's an acoustic performance on like a Sunday or Wednesday or something, or a great band like Danger Party being there, I think it'll really change the space, make it feel good. It'll be exciting.
Yeah, I think maybe once that happens, maybe you will see it for what it is.
For sure.
That's my hope.
I've been there for a long time, and I saw it originally, right? And it's a big difference when you go there for the first time. You're like, oh, this is kind of cool. So
yeah, it'll look different. What I love about working with you so far is that you're just like, yeah, cool. That sounds cool. Well, what about this? Yeah, that sounds cool. Let's do it.
Let's try it. That's how I got into this.
I love it. And, for someone like me, like I said, there aren't venues in St. Charles.
Sure.
I want to make cool stuff like this happen.
Yeah.
And so it is kind of an easy sell. It's like, we have the space.
Right.
You do the bands at the other place. Like, let's see how it works.
I agree. Yeah.
Let's do a little pop punk trivia here.
Oh boy.
What's your favorite pop punk band?
I wish you'd have prepared me for this.
No, that's the point.
So I don't know if
I'm giving you a hard time.
It's okay.
I don't think that you're a huge fan of that music, but
well, we're very similar in age. I think I'm probably a year older than you. So yeah, it's not.
You can say anything but Blink-182.
That was the
Not
first
because
one
they're
that
not
came
great,
into
but yeah, because that is just the obvious choice.
You know, I don't know if I wouldn't consider them pop punk, but I remember like Our Lady Peace, like Sponge. And
Okay.
like, that was sort of my,
Yeah.
you know, Sponge. I don't know if people in St. Louis know Sponge.
Oh
But
yeah, Molly.
yeah.
What was
Ronnie
it?
Pinata,
Cloud. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw them in Boston actually.
Did you really?
On that. Who did it? Sugar Ray and Everclear did this like crappy like.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was like a '90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would call that. Now, see, you're gonna get. I would call that like post grunge.
Yeah.
Because that's
That's
like
fair.
yeah, it's like mid '90s.
Yeah.
Our Lady Peace is great.
Yeah. It's just, it's like high school for me. So,
Yeah.
Oasis, you know, they're not really,
No.
I don't know. It's just, that was maybe more my musical, like,
Yeah.
yeah. And not maybe pop.
So we're talking like Blink-182, Newfound Glory, Sum 41.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I haven't heard
all that
those
stuff.
names.
Yeah, there
Some
you go.
41 for sure.
You're gonna hear all of it.
Was it Yellow Card?
Oh yeah.
This one.
Yep.
Yeah, but I haven't heard these in a long time.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny to go back and like old playlists or like, you know, we moved so many times and then, you know, my wife had this like, you remember the old like thing for like all your CDs? It was
yeah.
like fourth, you know, it's like, I'm like, why did you get rid of that? And she's like, I can't. It's like my identity, you know.
I still have mine.
Yeah.
I have been actually, you know what? I probably should talk. We'll talk off camera. It doesn't have to be tonight, but I bet that you could probably come up with something cool to do because I still have 100 something of them. I threw away the actual cases.
Yeah.
But I kept the booklets as well.
Oh, wow.
And so I have this space at my house that is kind of music themed. It's kind of a bar. And yeah, I want something to do with those CDs because it is art. Like, remember when you bought a CD and you flipped through the thing
You read it.
and the CD looked cool too? And you're like, I wonder what this looks like. And now you just go, you go download or add to library and like, there's your music. It's fine. It's certainly better, but
it's more convenient.
It's better in the sense that it's easier.
Yeah.
It's easier to access. It's easier to carry. But yeah, it's not better because I learned so much about the band.
Of course.
I would read the liner notes and see who they thanked.
Yeah.
And I would check out those bands.
Sure.
You know, that's how I would learn about new music in the late 90s. And so I'm the same way. I have all those CDs. I probably have 2 of those books. And yeah, I would like some kind of creative. It doesn't really have to function as anything. It can just be like a piece of art or something.
It's a cool idea.
To do with those. And then the same with the booklets, whether that's, you know, making a wallpaper out of them or something.
That's a good idea. Wallpaper like that. Yeah.
See, I need an engineer. I need someone with some supply chain experience to
We can think about
put
this.
that together. We don't have to solve the problem right now.
Oh,
but-
I'm already thinking. Sorry.
So October 13th, it's the perfect date. It's a Friday the 13th in October.
Yep.
We're gonna have a pop punk cover band, Danger Party. We're gonna have a Blink-182 cover band called Feeling This.
Okay.
We're gonna have some vendors. I just talked with the person that started this company called Elder Emo today.
Oh yeah.
So are you guys familiar with this term, Elder Emo? Okay. So
When you told me that the other day, I thought it was
Did I?
hilarious. Yeah.
it's so funny sounding to someone who's like not in that world.
Right.
And I told my wife even today, and she likes the same stuff, and she's like, "That's a funny name," but you know,
God,
it's
I'm old.
just the emo kids that are in their 40s now.
Elder.
But she started this brand, and I had heard the term. I didn't realize the brand was from St. Louis, and I had a conversation with her today, and she's traveled to a lot of these festivals.
Yeah, I bet.
Like the Hawthorne Heights show that came to Armory.
Yep.
That's a traveling festival.
Yeah.
And she told me how much she sold, and Local 636 has not sold that much in its existence.
Wow, really?
And she's gone to this one show and made a profit, this huge amount, and I'm like, this is crazy. Her stuff looks awesome.
Yeah.
So they're going to be there. We're going to have some pretty unique artists there. It's going to be almost like a punk rock kind of market.
It's awesome.
It'll be interesting, and it'll give the people that are already at Rec Hall a chance to come out and see it as well. So I'm sure we'll have some dedicated people that are coming just for this.
Sure.
But the other, however many people at Rec Hall are free to go.
Just coming for Friday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know it'll be in the back, and that concert space, if you want to call it that, is almost completely independent from the regular
Yeah.
venue. So it'll be, you know, you come play cornhole or giant pong or, you know, drink some beer towers or whatever, drink beer out of the beer towers. Or you can go to the concert in the back. Should be fun either way.
Or both.
Yeah, or both.
We
Yeah.
need to probably get some wayfinding inside the venue, right?
Great point. It's
Because it is big, and if someone comes there and they're, you know, sometimes the concert people might dress a little different. They're going to walk in and probably immediately feel out of place and go,
understandably.
there's a football here?
Right.
I'm in the wrong spot.
You know, I completely agree on that. And when we opened with the pandemic, like a bunch of stuff happened. The construction project took 3 months longer than we could. I mean, we were like, I was probably $10,000 away from just being totally out of money. And it was like, we should do this and we should do this. We're still doing that stuff. Like, and wayfinding is a big part of it. Cause like, you're right. The patio, how do you get to the patio? Where's the kitchen? Where's the bathroom? Where's the bar? Where's the, you know?
Yeah.
So that is on our list.
But it's also a big open space. So it's hard to, you can't just put a sign up.
No.
I mean, there's not a place to do that.
Yeah.
You just have to hang something or.
Yeah. Neon signs, maybe some.
Oh yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
I did have a question, totally off topic. We can leave this up because I do want to come back to it. But there's a lot of like quotes and sayings on the wall.
Yes.
And I recognize a couple of them, like one's from Caddyshack. Yeah. But are there some that are like original to like you or to someone on your team?
Most of them are original.
Okay.
My favorite one is everyone's in cornhole shape. So
I like that one.
it's a good one.
Who's that attributed to?
So I have a new partner in the Armory, and he's got a whole long history in hospitality, 30 plus years. And he's really good at taking a space from here to the next level. And it's just little things like that. Yeah. Like, I just, for me, I find it when he said everybody's in cornhole shape, I'm like,
was that just, did he just riff that like off the cuff?
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know if you heard it somewhere before, but we went through a list of, we probably had 60 ideas. And, it's everything from like clear liquors are for rich women on diets, Anchorman quote, and stuff like that that's actually in Caddyshack. But it's other ones like everyone's in cornhole shape, or
you don't have to have fun to have alcohol.
Yeah, I think that one's...
You don't like that one?
No, I do. I just think that's been around. That one's probably a little less original.
I've never seen it.
Oh, you haven't?
Yeah,
that's good.
Have you guys heard that? Don't have to have...
You don't need fun to have alcohol.
Don't need fun to have alcohol.
You switch there's another one. I don't know if it's at the Armory, but it's you don't need alcohol to have fun, but you don't need running shoes to run either. It just makes it a lot easier, something like that. It's pretty good. Yeah. I think. It's just we went again. We opened. We didn't have any money. We were just I owed a lot of people a lot of money, and I paid 8 employees the entire time we were shut down from March through the following February. So we were just burning through money, and we needed to open, and we didn't really get to a lot of the things we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we opened, we were focused all of our energy on the Armory, and all that stuff that we wanted to do, we just didn't do because we were busy. And then finally the Armory got open, and we had new partners, and he's like, hey, this is great, but let's do these things. So we spent a little bit more money, food and those quotes, and we're adding new games, and, we're just kind of reinvesting back in the business. You talk about profit for Local 636 and other emo, like I haven't made any money off of Rec All yet. Like it's been 4 years, and it's tough. So like no salary, no car allowance, no gas, nothing. It's just been...
Please go to Rec Hall.
No, it's not. It's been a labor of love. Like that's the best way to describe it. So, and I've had a ton of fun. I've learned a lot, met a lot of great people. And, when you're like, hey, let's do a concert, I'm like, great, let's do a concert. It's just fun. And I've met a lot of great people, and ultimately it led to the Armory and stuff like that. So it's been good.
Rec Hall it's a super fun place, man. I think most people can walk in there and find something they like and feel comfortable and feel at home. It's just a fun place. Yep. Plenty of TVs. You go up there and watch football.
Sure.
Go check it out. A perfect opportunity to check it out is going to be October 13th at Make a Scene. We've got tons of support on this too from the ALT STL Facebook group, from that community, again, from the vendors, from the bands. Danger Party's a pretty sought after band. They've got the emo night thing established, which is now at the Hawthorne, and so they draw. It's going to be fun. It's not just emo guys. They're going to play all your favorite songs from the early 2000s. I heard them after Taking Back Sunday. You guys went to that? Did you guys go see them afterwards? They played Taylor Swift.
Oh, really?
They played like Papa Roach. So it's not just emo stuff. It's not just punk stuff. You'll hear a bunch of songs and
Awesome.
It'll be fun.
I try to avoid going there on the weekends just because it's like
Sure.
great to hang out when you work. But
Yeah.
I'm going to be there. I think I'm going to get my wife to go. She's going to be super excited for the whole.
It's that concert she wants to go to.
Yes. She's been dying to go there. No, I'm really excited. This will be the first concert. We'll see how it goes.
Why don't you plug the socials one more time? And
Sure. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and I believe TikTok's the same. It's Rec Hall STL, so RECHALL STL.
And we're at Everything Local 636. Again, hit that subscribe button, follow everything, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. Thinking about this all.